be real science, if there were really anything to be scientific about. Or the science of chemistry is like a science of sociology, prejudiced in advance, because only to see is to see with a prejudice, setting out to prove that all inhabitants of New York came from Africa. Very easy matter. Samples from one part of town, disregard for all the rest. There is no science but Wessex science. According to our acceptance, there should be no other, but that approximation should be higher, that metaphysics is super evil, that the scientific spirit is of the cosmic quest. Our notion is that, in a real existence, such a quasi-system of fables as the science of chemistry could not deceive for a moment, but that in an existence, endeavoring to become real, it represents that endeavor, and will continue to impose its pseudo-positiveness, until it be driven out by a higher approximation to realness: that the science of chemistry is as impositive as fortune-telling. Or no: that, though it represents a higher approximation to realness than does alchemy, for instance, and so drove out alchemy, it is still somewhere between myth and positiveness. The attempt at realness, or to state a real and unmodified fact here, is the statement: all red rains are colored sands from the Sahara Desert. My own impositivist acceptances are: that some red rains are colored by sands from the Sahara Desert, some by sands from other terrestrial sources, some by sands from other worlds, or from their deserts, also from aerial regions, too indefinite or amorphous to be thought of as worlds or planets. That no supposititious whirlwind can account for the hundreds of millions of tons of matter that fell upon Australia, Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean and Europe in 1902 and 1903: that a whirlwind that could do that would not be supposititious. But now we shall cast off some of our Wessicality by accepting that there have been falls of red substance other than sand. We regard every science as an expression of the attempt to be real. But to be real is to localize the universal, or to make some one thing as wide as all things, successful accomplishment of which I cannot conceive of. The prime resistance to this endeavor is the refusal of the rest of the universe to be damned, excluded, disregarded, to receive Christian Science treatment by something else so attempting. Although all phenomena are striving for the absolute, or have surrendered to and have incorporated themselves in higher attempts, simply to be phenomenal, or to have seeming in intermediateness, is to express relations. A river. It is water expressing the gravitational relation of different levels. The water of the river. Expression of chemic relations of hydrogen and oxygen, which are not final. A city. Manifestation of commercial and social relations. How could a mountain be without base in a greater body? Storekeeper live without customers? The prime resistance to the positivist attempt by science is its relations with other phenomena, or that it only expresses those relations in the first place, or that a science can have seeming, or survive in intermediateness, as something pure, isolated, positively different, no more than could a city, or a river, or a mountain, or a store. This intermediateness-wide attempt, by parts, to be wholes, which cannot be realized in our quasi-state, if we accept that in it the coexistence of two or more wholes or universals is impossible, high approximation to which, however, may be thinkable. Scientists and their dream of pure science. Artists and their dream of art for art's sake. It is our notion that if they could almost realize, that would be almost realness, that they would instantly be translated into real existence. Such thinkers are good positivists, but they are evil in an economic and sociologic sense, if, in that sense, nothing has justification for being, unless it serve, or function for, or express the relations of, some higher aggregate. So science functions for and serves society at large, and would, from society at large, receive no support unless it did so divert itself, or dissipate and prostitute itself. It seems that by prostitution I mean usefulness. There have been red rains that, in the Middle Ages, were called rains of blood. Such rains terrified many persons, and were so unsettling to large populations that science, in its sociologic relations, has sought, by Mrs. Eddy's method, to remove an evil. That rains of blood do not exist. That rains so called are only of water colored by sand from the Sahara Desert. My own acceptance is that such assurances, whether fictitious or not, whether the Sahara is a dazzling white desert or not, have wrought such good effects, in a sociologic sense, even though prostitutional in the positivist sense, they were well justified. But that we've gone on, that this is the 20th century, that most of us have grown up, so that such soporifics of the past are no longer necessary, that if gushes of blood should fall from the sky upon New York City, business would go on as usual. We began with rains that we accepted ourselves were, most likely, only of sand. In my own still immature hereticalness, and by heresy, or progress, I mean very largely a return, though with many modifications, to the superstitions of the past, I think I feel considerable aloofness to the idea of rains of blood. Just at present it is my conservative, or timid purpose, to express only that there have been red rains that very strongly suggest blood, or finely divided animal matter. Debris from interplanetary disasters. Aerial battles. Food supplies from cargoes of supervessels wrecked in interplanetary traffic. There was a red rain in the Mediterranean region, March 6, 1888. 12 days later, it fell again. Whatever this substance may have been, when burned, the odor of animal matter from it was strong and persistent. L'Astronomie, 1888, 205. But infinite heterogeneity, or debris from many different kinds of aerial cargoes. There have been red rains that have been colored by neither sand nor animal matter. Annals of Philosophy, 16-226. That November 2nd, 1819, week before the Black Rain and earthquake of Canada, there fell, at Blankenberge, Holland, a red rain. As to sand, two chemists of Bruges concentrated 144 ounces of the rain to 4 ounces. No precipitate fell, but the color was so marked that had there been sand it would have been deposited, if the substance had been diluted instead of concentrated. Experiments were made, and various reagents did cast precipitates, but other than sand. The chemists concluded that the rainwater contained muriate of cobalt, which is not very enlightening. That could be said of many substances carried in vessels upon the Atlantic Ocean. Whatever it may have been, in the Annales de Chimie, 2-12-432, its color is said to have been red-violet. For various chemic reactions, see Quarterly Journal Royal Institute, 9 202, and Edinburgh Philosophical